the right. It's come from the people that say that they support it. Now, right, left, green, yellow, purple, people, Democrats, Republicans, everyone's tired of political parties. But what's happened here over the last 5 years is it's been crazy. So let me just tell you, she's a conservative leader in Colorado, director of special initiatives for the Colorado Republican Party. For the past 5 years, she has driven impactful statewide efforts, notably banning medical transitioning for minors. And she is a mom. She's also influenced school boards. She's been a fierce fighter. The more she stands up and stands for what's right, the more people literally attack her. It's crazy. She's held roles in numerous conservative groups, and she played a key role in securing the Colorado GOP 2024 Trump endorsement. She continues to serve on boards like the Colorado Hispanic Republicans, local charter schools, and she drives to protecting children and conservative values. So with that said, Darcy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Joe. It's an honor to be here.
Darcy, you spend a lot of your time getting attacked by people in conservative circles more than the liberal circles.
I do. I do.
And you get
I
upset.
think that's
You get upset over that. I mean, you get.
I don't know if I would get upset. I would characterize it as upset so much as it drives me to work harder and complete my goal of electing conservatives in Colorado and advancing our values. So I kind of tend to channel that into just being more aggressive. The more they attack me, the harder I fight.
Okay, so let's just talk about this. Dave he can't win. He can't win. I mean, and this is where I just draw a line on this kind of kabukiness of this. You got what's his name, Hurd. You got Lauren Boebert. You have literally every. It's as if the retarded have gotten a hold of the wagon wheels and the reins, and it's just all over the place. What is going on in the Colorado GOP? Like, why can't we just have one go forward strategy?
Well, that you answered your own question because we don't have a go forward strategy. So without that go forward strategy, without all of us being on the same page and working towards the same goals, whether it's, all of us being involved in the school boards, going out to Durango to stand up for the kids out there that are being abused by the staff in Durango 9R schools, or whether we're talking about, all coming together to go testify on a Second Amendment bill, that's the crux of it, Joe, is there's no overall arching strategy. When we go ahead and implement that, then we should see less of the infighting. Now, obviously, we're in a blue state, so I like to say it's a blue squeeze. So you've got Republicans, and by and large, most Republicans start out just like Democrats. They start out saying, "I'm going to be involved in my party. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do all the things it takes to flip seats and so on and so forth." But then they, in a blue state with Governor Polis and the way that the Democrats are here, they're constantly hammered by the media. They're beat down on. They're told that they're racist. They're told that they're bigots. Now, you and I, Joe, people like you and I, we don't care, right? We're like, call me whatever you want. I don't care. This is fun. I'm going to keep doing it. But the people that are not as strong of Republicans, they feel that intense pressure of being called names, of being called a bigot, of their kids being made fun of at school for their activism. And so, one of the things that we need to do as a party is be reaching out to our members to help them become stronger Republicans, to educate them on what that means, and to stand by them so that as they're getting attacked, people like you and I can stand on the front lines with them so that they continue to fight.
Okay, so let's talk about the initiatives in Colorado. Dave Williams was supported by President Trump. He stood up. He had some missteps, right? He went to look at election machines to run the ballot initiatives for the uh, what's it called, for the caucus.
Mhm.
He did that. That was stupid. I mean, everyone knows it's stupid. He eventually said, "Okay, I'm not going to have machines in there." We We didn't have any sort of conversation. Like there was never any conversations that ever had. Like the Colorado GOP, I feel like is kind of like, I'm the leader. So here's what I think. Here's what I think we should do. We're only going to do that. And, we fail to give anybody a seat at the table. Like it just feels like before Dave, it was KGB,
Maybe
who KGB. So before, and she was embattled, and she basically is. I mean, she's worthless, and
Yeah.
I say that because she tried to come into FEC United, she tried to run it, then lied about it, and then all of a sudden, so I get it, but Dave was supposed to come in different. Like this was supposed to be a different environment, and I felt like it's just the same old. And look, I'm going to ask you hard questions because there's people that want answers to hard questions, and so I want to get to the bottom of how we can get to a place where we can have parity between the people that are out there, they're doing the work on the ground, and the people that are inside the party. It almost feels like there's a gate. Even for me, there's a gate, and there shouldn't be a gate for me. Help me.
You're exactly right. There are gates. I've had to go through so many gates. If we were Democrats, we'd call it barriers. It's nonstop. I would say that 5, 6 years ago, when I became hyper involved in El Paso County, that's when I started to realize that these people don't want to give me a seat at the table. And when you start to reach that type of mentality of people not wanting to let you sit at the table, then that tells you one thing, which is that these people then they're not in it to save children. They're not in it to save our schools. They're not in it to advance our values. They're in it for themselves. Because if I want as many people at my table as possible, right? So do you. I don't care if somebody down the street is a huge rhino. If they can take an Excel spreadsheet and get a couple calls made so that we can get a candidate elected or so that we can raise some money at the end of the day, that's better than being left with all Democrats. So I think that we need to look at it from that standpoint. Why are we being blocked out? Why are we being told that we don't have a seat at the table? And the answer to that is because people like you and I, especially, we hold our elected Republican officials accountable and we make them question the value of their own work. I recently did a long talk at Moms for Liberty about holding Republican school boards accountable, right? Because almost every single school board out of the 17 in El Paso County are Republican. But they all have the tranny porn in the schools. They all have anti-white curriculum. Well, why
Okay,
is that?
so wait, hold on, time out. I'm trying to get people in the comments to come to rally around you.
Sure.
So I agree with everything you're saying, and we're going to get to those issues. Okay,
Okay.
but why isn't this something that everyone can rally around? Why isn't that we can't say Dave Williams say, hey, march that direction, tranny porn in the schools. Hey, march that direction. Everybody show up to this, and people just do it. Like I used to have people 500, 600, 700 people will show up at a school board meeting. I would say, guys, I'll meet you there. We would show up, and we would piss everybody off. Like we were monsters for years. Now you can't get 30 people to show up because they're all fighting with each other about who's got better lipstick.
Yep.
Right?
I think I've seen that fight a couple times.
It's absurd. And then it erodes trust on both sides. And by the way, it's gotten me to the point where I don't have any patience because everyone tells me what they think is happening with Tina Peters. And I have a conversation with Tina, and I have other people that are involved in things that send me stuff. And then all of a sudden, out of left field, I got Fed 1 and Fed 2 that bark up there like, we're going to see her. And I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. Just can we go this direction? Can we just say
Right.
no tranny porn? Here you go. Boop. Help me.
Exactly. Well, and that's why it takes a leadership team. That's why it takes leadership that's strong, coordinated, and can see all the moving pieces. As I said earlier, we've got to all be on the same page. So if there's tranny porn in the schools, Why are we not all working on it? Why are the volunteers not calling around and checking on the curriculum in all the schools? And then people with voices like me and whoever else, we draw attention to it and we keep it moving. And, we pressure the school board and we get people thrown off the school board and thrown out as teachers and so on and so forth. But we don't want to do that because the Republicans in our party that are somewhat to the middle, they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be told that they're not doing the job that we elected them to do. That's a hard conversation to have with people. I've got friends that are elected that are not, they're not doing what I elected them to do. When I went and knocked on doors for them, I didn't expect them to turn around and vote against the Second Amendment or vote for higher taxes. So we have to continue to work in the same direction, but also bring education to the table. So if somebody's not voting well, I'll use Mary Bradfield as an example, House District 21, over down by the military. If she's not voting correctly, and she's not, she's a horrific voting record, but she continues to get elected by her constituents. Is there some type of education that we can provide to Miss Bradfield to say, look, these last couple of votes of yours, these were garbage. These were not conservative. And here's why. And here's what we need you to do moving forward. We have to be having these conversations and all moving in the same direction. That's how we get there. And it's not by getting on social media and yelling at each other. It's just about doing the work.
Is it ego?
It's
I mean,
totally ego. I
is
mean,
it really good bound? So who has to be the first one to lay down the sword and to have some humility? And look, I tell people all the time, I have no patience for stupid. But I mean, certainly we have to get to a place where we're having better conversations. And right now we're not having them. Like we're not having those conversations. And it's crazy because, I have certain people that I absolutely despise. I've decided that I'm going to talk about those people because there's a long train history of bad behavior. Right. But he, and then I sit in my head and I'm like, okay, but still, if those people came and said, all right, Joe, just stop talking about me. I do. Okay. What's your platform? I mean, have we forgotten about the fact that there is a platform and that frankly, uh, uh, in the military, you have people that don't get along, soldiers. And typically they beat each other to death and then they walk back, wipe the blood off and go back to work. What's it going to take to get Colorado to get back to work?
that's you, like I said, you're answering your own question. For us to get back to work, we got to get back to work. And that's what I want to make. That's what I want to bring to the table as a leader. As you said, you've seen me out there doing the work. You've seen me day in and day out, whether it's out in Durango standing for the kids, whether it's raising money, whether it's testifying at the Capitol. That's the work. Those are the nuts and bolts. So if we're doing those things, that's how we come together as a party. And by and large, it's not that difficult to do. We just have to do it. We know most people are lazy, Joe. I mean, look, it's easier to go on social media and bitch. It's easier to pick up the phone and call your friends and bitch than it is to actually go knock doors or make phone calls. And I think that that's what we're missing. And to your point, I think you and I are very similar in this respect. I don't care who you are, and I don't care how much I disagree with you in this party or what you may have messed up. If you come to me and you say, look, I want to do better, I want to do better for this party. I want to represent our values more stringently. I need your help. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to be there every single time. The somebody could literally try to throw me under the bus today. And if you're sorry about it and you want to come together as a party, I am all for that. I mean, we're human beings and forgiveness means a lot and humility means a lot.
Yeah. So I will tell you that uh, I was just telling the story about my friend John, who is probably one of the nicest people you'd ever meet that I disliked for years. Like I think I probably would have if given the chance, it would have been I would have like thrown him around like a rag doll. And comes to find out he's an amazing man. Like I feel absolute regret for making him my enemy over those years. Right. I feel regret. And I've told him this. I'm like, bro, I'll do anything for you. And I think he would say the same thing about me. And he's a prominent business owner and is mean, prominent, and has been multiple companies done really well, but it was ego. In a lot of ways, it was ego. Couldn't even figure out the reason why I didn't got mad at him to begin with. I can't even remember, right? This is how retarded I was back
Yeah,
back
I
then.
know. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some stuff that we're not going to solve the problem on the Colorado GOP, but it's the same problem in every state, and it is people that like to watch people fight. They like it. They revel in it. And but if we can get back to just solving problems, I think it'd be really good. But, tell me about the ban for medical transitions for minors in Colorado. And you've been fighting for this ban for a long time. And what hurdles did you overcome? And what hurdles are still in front of you?
Well, so we went I went before the title board in this last year in 2024 with an initiative Let Kids Be Kids. And that was to ban genital mutilation and sterilization of children, which you would think would be, common sense. But we're in Colorado. So we had a really sound legal team at the Colorado GOP. The initiative was well written. It was airtight. And as a matter of fact, we went through the title board. We made it. We made it out of title board. So they said your ballot initiative meets the requirements of Colorado laws, and it'll go on the ballot. And then it was maybe about a week or two after they granted that the title board came back and said, "Oops, we messed up. No, you can't. You don't get to put your initiative onto the ballot." And they used some crazy provision in the Constitution that's very murky and horribly worded. And now I know there's attorneys looking at it. But, anyways, I told them, I said to the title board, I said, look, I know this initiative dies now because there's nothing after the title board other than the Colorado Supreme Court. So you'd be throwing $200,000 at crazy leftists who wanted to keep Trump off the ballot. So I told them, I said, you are denying our ballot initiative because you're bought and paid for, because we're sitting 2 feet from Dana Griswold's office. Somebody called you, one Colorado, whoever it was, and said, you better not let that initiative through. And you back down. And that's what we're dealing with in Colorado. But all that to say, it's going to get better. Um, by and large, the Democrats have been running this state like communism. But now that we've got President Trump and control of the federal government, we know that we have help at the national level. And so some of these things we're going to really, I think, start to see a lot of progress with. And we actually have in the last couple of weeks.
All right. So we're making some progress nationally. You actually have hospitals in Colorado that stopped doing gender surgeries, cutting off penises off of boys in in January. They now have restarted the process of cutting off penises of boys in February. How are we going to address this kind of behind enemy lines deviancy that we're dealing with that contradicts what President Trump has already put out there? How are we gonna stop Colorado from this being this bastion of just evil? Because that's all it is.
Sure, it definitely is. So, two ways. If we're talking about Denver Children's Hospital, I put out a statement on that. Like I said, we've got Trump on our side now, and so I have really started to engage the Trump administration to say, look, we need your help in Colorado because we've got a legislature that's going to continue to pass laws that are just blatantly unconstitutional. And by and large, the Trump administration is aware of this. So, they've obviously got people calling from all states all across the country right now, but Colorado is going to be a focus because of how oppressive it has become towards freedom, towards our liberties. But aside from that, I'll use the example of I don't know if you saw what happened at Grand Peak Academy last year. There was a tranny that was 50 years old. He went by the name of Miss Sparkles, and he was telling the
Miss
second, third grade
Sparkles. No,
Miss
I
Sparkle.
remember. I
Yeah,
remember. Yeah,
yeah,
the
and he was
freakish guy that wore the lipstick stuff. That was a
yeah,
fight. But the GOP was fighting over this guy. I'm like, are you kidding me? What is happening
yeah.
here?
I know,
Like there was
I
two
know.
sides. Oh, leave him alone. He's a 50-year-old freak. Calling himself
It,
Miss Sparkles. Come on now. This isn't even real.
How far have we come as a party when we're saying, you know what, it's okay for your daughter to go, who's 9 years old, to go into a stall in the bathroom and be forced to use a bathroom with a grown man urinating in the stall next to her. And I said to the president and the school board, I said, that is so wrong. And you know what the board president said? He goes, you're, Darcy, you're letting your imagination run wild. The cracks in those stalls aren't big enough for anyone to see a penis through. And I'm like, is this clown world? Like, the fact that you just had to say those words out loud, this is ridiculous. So, like, all of these girls are now at risk and they don't feel safe. And they were telling their parents they don't like to use a bathroom with a grown man in a dress and they shouldn't have to. And I don't care if a part of our party says, don't be mean, don't say tranny, don't do this. Yes, you know what? There is something to be said about humility, like I said a minute ago, but not you don't have any more humility when you're forcing yourself into little girls' bathrooms and telling kids they can be any gender that they want. So in that situation, we didn't have President Trump during that time, but just like you and a lot of people in our party, I went straight to social media. I put it everywhere. And we're talking the board email addresses, board phones, over and over and over. Hey, call this school, go protest outside this school, call this teacher. Because you know what? If the state legislature is going to allow this stuff to happen, then we need to at least make it painful for the people doing it so that they maybe think about their actions a little more. And he left. He left the school. So and I would literally say that had I not jumped in and done that and made things difficult for him, he would still be there. And it's gross. It's disgusting. So yes, we have to utilize the Trump administration, work closely with them, but then we have to use the tools that we have that are free. I mean, shaming people on social media, especially these trannies that want to go in little kids' bathrooms, that's exactly what we need to be doing.
Okay. So some other kind of notable things that you were involved in. I'm trying to let people kind of, uh, they're, man, the idea that mm, you and I did not always get along and we didn't know we didn't get along. People just told me stuff about you and I was like, yeah, I don't like her. And then I met you and I was like, well, what? Okay. Why don't they don't like you? Why don't they like you? I even asked you that question. Why don't they like you?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't like me. And you're like, well, maybe I was a little harsh over here. Maybe I was like, so you made mistakes. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. I watched this, but you've done some good work in a lot of different areas. The monument trustees, they blocked the subsidy housing and clearing the homeless encampments. Tell us about that.
Okay, so my town manager called, this was back in 2022. He said, Darce, there's some developers, they've got this great project that's happening and they want to talk to a couple trustees before it goes to the board. And I said, okay. So I met the town manager and these developers and no other trustees. It was just me at a Mexican restaurant in Monument, just expecting to hear about some houses. And oh my gosh, this developer starts talking and he said, well, we're developing low income subsidized housing over by the cemetery and Monument. And I'm like, wait, what? We don't want that in mind. We don't need it. We don't want it. And you could take it somewhere else. And he says, well, they've got similar projects have really good reviews in Aurora. I was like, well, good, go build it in Aurora because Monument's a conservative community where you don't have to always lock your doors, where your car is safe in your driveway, where kids can ride their bike. And so I was livid. So I said to my town manager and I said to some of the board members, like, we got to stop this. And Everett said, you know what? No, we have to give it its due process. Don't say anything. We're gonna just it'll go to a vote. Well, you and I know how these land use decisions work, especially in small towns. It's gonna go to planning, it's gonna not even take very long. They're gonna rubber stamp it, then it's gonna go to the board. And then guess what? Then I can't talk because it's quasi judicial and I have to sit there and do a fair hearing. So, anyways, what I did was same thing. I just put the plans on social media and I asked Monument voters, hey, do you guys want a low income subsidized housing project in Monument? Here are the developers' phone numbers. Here's the project. It's up to you guys. And guess what? After not even a day, it wasn't even 24 hours, the developers called and said, you know what? First of all, Darcy's a nightmare. But second of all, Monument's a nightmare. Your residents are, and we're leaving. We want no part of this. Good, bye. You weren't welcome here. That's why you got that type of reception. And of course, at that time, there were a lot of people, the fellow trustees and residents that lean more left, that said, oh, she overstepped her boundaries. She didn't follow the process. You know what? When it comes to the health and safety and freedom of my family, process be damned. We're not having subsidized housing. And that's how I approach things. And that's why people don't like me. That's why they find me offensive. But guess what? I don't have subsidized housing near my home now.
All right. I'm going to go back to the gender transition deal because there's some stuff that I want to show. Right. I want to get back to this because you have children. Terrified every day that somebody's going to groom your children.
Well, my children are at a Catholic school, but they still catch wind of these things.
Have you met the Pope? I just want to be clear.
Exactly.
I'm
Oh
going to get
gosh,
so much trouble for saying that. Okay, he's not
that's
my
a
favorite Pope.
whole nother.
Oh my gosh, craziness. Okay, so
I
you
know.
were, I'm running out of time, and I want to be able to get this in. But there is a person that I actually think she's awesome. It's Erin, right? And I want to put these up if we can. This is a big problem, right? So, Teacher of the Year finalist accused of inappropriate relationship with a student. This is the third time. This is the third time. Go ahead and put this up. Third time. This is the third time that it's happened in Douglas County in just the last year. Third time. Arrested. Her name is Tara Johnson Swartz, 44 of Castle Rock. She was an English teacher at the STEM school. So you remember Castillo, whose son was killed?
John
Right?
Castillo. Yeah.
John Castillo. He said this to me. He goes, Joe, that school needs to be shut down. Now remember, his son was shot and killed in the school, trying to disarm a well, whatever you want to call it, inside the school, right? And he said, Joe, the institutional rot, as bad as this STEM school is, this is the second time in the STEM school that they've had this issue in the last 2 years. And this is where the shooting occurred. This is like home base for grooming. I mean, what? And this is in Douglas County, the most conservative place in the city, in the country, or the state. And help me, please help me understand this. 2025, like literally, she was just named 2025 Teacher of the Year, one of 7 in a pool of 1,300. The page was deleted after Denver 7 published the story. They deleted it. Like Douglas County just said, okay, we're gonna act like it doesn't exist. And this is the person that was a STEM cell person of the year, Teacher of the Year. Help me. Help me make this make sense. And by the way, this is the third time in the last 60 days in Colorado. One was in Jefferson County, where they didn't even tell the parents about that student moving in with the teacher. And the principal was a part of it.
It's disgusting. I mean, okay, so schools, churches, what else? Daycare centers. We know historically, right, Joe, that those places attract people who can be pedophiles. That's not to say everybody working there is a pedophile. That's ridiculous. But by and large, people who want to abuse children, they're going to typically seek out places with lots of children, right? So you've already got a situation where there are people with bad intentions looking to work there. Now we've got teachers unions over the last several decades that have been infusing their grooming ideology into the schools, and they've been hammering it into parents' heads that the government knows best, teachers know best, kids should have pronouns, kids should be out, wearing fur and leather bondage stuff to school and whatever else they're doing. And so we've created an atmosphere that is accelerating an environment where pedophiles can take hold, where pedophiles can molest kids and abuse kids. So that's all it is. And we have to stop that cycle. So when you hear the left, they love to use terms for teachers like trusted adult. What is a trusted adult? The only trusted adult my kids know is adult me and their father. So who the hell is a trusted adult? It's not this woman. It's not the people in Jefferson County that are, sleeping with kids. We've got to get rid of that. And 20 years ago, 30 years ago when we were growing up, that this was not a thing. And yeah, no, it's because of the left, the teachers unions, and we can reverse it pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, it is an epidemic that
It
we have
is.
groomers and pedophiles that are literally inside of our school system, and that the education curriculum is so rotted to the core because the Department of Education has pushed down these standards. It is the place that these bad people are hanging out. Now they are saying that they're Republican, they are saying that they're conservative, and you know what? Doesn't even matter. Like I will literally relent to the fact that I don't care if you're a Democrat. I actually don't care if you're a Democrat. You know what? I'm having better conversations, Darcy, with Democrats than I am Republicans these days. I am.
Same, same.
And and I go, like, Ike. Ike ran for, he was a Colorado, what do we call it? Colorado House member, right?
Yeah.
Ike McCorkle. He likes
Mhm.
guns. He's a Marine. He's a Democrat. I call him out all the time on his page, on his when he puts stuff up there. I'm like, that's not true. But I'm calling out Democrats, and they're sending me stuff all the time. Like, hey Joe, what do you think of this? Hey Joe, what do you think of this? I'm like, I think that's bullshit, personally. And they're
Yeah.
like, well, why? You got to tell me why. And so I'll tell them, and then we'll get into conversations with them. Like my friend Martin sending me this stuff, and he says, regardless of what you think of Zelensky, Putin is a fascist dictator, and Russia invaded one of the allies, and now we're going on the Russian side of things. And the dangerous part is that we're alienating our allies. Most European countries are ramping up their defense budgets literally to prepare for the potential new enemy, the U.S. And I was like, bro, uh, I, this is not true. Now for Putin, what makes him a fascist or what makes him a dictator? Show your work, right? So I just said, show me your work. And people are coming back, and then he's like, oh, well, I don't see this right. I made it a point to get away from Conservative Daily, the name, and get to the Untamed Truth, because I want to get to the Untamed Truth. One of the reasons why I have you on is I want to be able to give you space to talk about the things that you're working on, but also what does the future look like so that people can see you in a different light. Darcy, you have this really, really hard shell. You have a hard shell. Like it is like, it's like titanium. Like you walk into a room, somebody you don't like, you will literally give them fire. I mean, you will give them fire out of both barrels, and you'll probably even pull out a full grenade and stick it in their pants and walk away. Watch it blow half their body apart, right? And you won't even look back.
Right.
But that's not actually Darcy. That's not Darcy. So you gotta lay all that shit down for a minute, and you gotta talk about some things. You have two beautiful kids, right?
I do. Dexter and Alice, they are 9 and 10.
Okay. You you raise them. You do this stuff with the Colorado GOP. You literally work 60 hours a week. Why do you do it? Number one, why do you do it? And frankly, uh, how do you get to a place where you can just let go of the steering wheel and start collectively coming together and saying, look, I'm consistent, and I may have had my fall downs here, and you can hold me accountable for that. But how about we look at what the fruit of my labor right now and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and create those friendships like I did with John, that maybe can just set aside the things, that a snapshot in time that they use as a battering stick against who Darcy is.
Sure. So you're right. I do have a hard exterior. But I have a hard exterior when it's appropriate. I have a hard exterior when it comes to, evil Democrats and all the things. But
There's evil
I've been
Republicans. Let me just put it out there for Okay, I'm
Yeah,
just
that's
talking.
good point on that. But by and large, I was just telling somebody the other day, where would I be if not for the Republican Party? I mean, I don't know any other way to live my life. From a very young age in high school, my mother and father were often embarrassed of me because I was usually fighting the high school administration in some way when something was unjust. And I would characterize everything that I fight for is to bring justice, especially for children that just want to be educated. So when I look at the Republican Party, I've really started to humanize people more. If you called me on tonight, Joe, at 2 in the morning, or sorry, I mean, even if Todd Watkins called me at 2 in the morning, hey, Todd, if you're listening, I'd still come and help you on the side of the road because that's who I am. And that's who we all need to be. I think I give myself fully to this party. Um, I was in Durango a couple weeks ago driving home after I was standing for kids out with that school board, and my kids were with their father, and I got rerouted through New Mexico because Wolf Pass was closed down. And that's a scary drive, especially at 10 o'clock at night. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what if something happens, And like my kids, of course, they have their dad. But what if something happens to me and I'm out fighting for other people's kids? But my kids know, um they show up, they come to my events. Dexter, who's 10 years old, spoke at Capitol Club last month about the trans agenda and some movies. They know that their mother is out fighting for what's right every single day. And I'm raising two more individuals that are going to do that when I'm no longer here. And that's the best that all of us can hope to do for our children. And so, as chair of the GOP, I would hope to impart that on as many people as possible. That we give our all every day, we put in all we can, we wake up, we do it again, and we teach our kids how to do it. We teach our kids to fight for America. We teach our kids to fight for future generations because if we don't, and if they don't, we have nothing left. And this is the greatest country in the world. It always will be. And we have to fight for it.
All right. How do people follow you?
So on Twitter, I'm at Darcy and then the number 4CO. But usually, if you go to Facebook or anything and type in Darcy S, I come up right away. I mean, my name is unique enough that you can find me on any platform. Google my name, my phone number's right there, but it's 630-796-5885. I take calls from anybody, whatever you need help with. You
Put
just
your
want to
phone number
vent.
out there. You have no idea how many
Yeah,
people are watching this podcast. That is a
I don't
dangerous
care.
thing to do.
I don't care, even if it's Democrats that want to call me and threaten me, go right ahead. I mean, that's what I do. It's on every email that goes out from the GOP, Joe,
Jeez,
my
that's a
cell
lot.
phone. Yeah. So I'm
That
always
is a
here for
lot.
you guys. Um and Joe, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for standing for me. Um Joe has been instrumental in my life, especially in the last year, as people have attacked me. And I think really highly of you, Joe. You're an integral part of Colorado, and I just appreciate you so much.
Well, I might run for governor. I'm thinking about it. So might be
Are you going to?
I might thinking about it. I'm putting it out there. I don't see a lot. I keep meeting with candidates and having conversations with them. And, here's the thing. I met with a couple last night, a couple lawyers, and had the conversation about what it is that I see in Colorado and that the people have been left behind. We're behind enemy lines. The people here are institutional slaves, and we deserve a chance. I mean, the kids deserve a chance, and not just the kids that are in my neighborhood, because those kids, it doesn't really affect them. Like we have the ability to move past it, but the kids in the inner city, the people that are the most vulnerable among us, those are the ones that I literally would run for a governor for, because I don't this whole idea that you can create a motto and that actually reaches into the hearts of the people in the community. I know what reaches into the hearts of the community: opportunity. So if we can eliminate the opportunity deserts that get created and talk into the lives of everyone, right, and not the radicals on the left or the right. I have no patience for them. But if we can talk into the lives of of the people that we've basically discarded, and we've discarded a large portion of the, call them Democrats. We've discarded them.
Yeah.
And so that leads me to the place where can we run? And I've thought about running as a Democrat. Just kidding. That's a lie. That'll never happen. Ever. Not in the history of humankind would that ever happen. So I haven't really thought about that.
That's going to
But
be clipped, but okay.
no, it's good. They can put you.
I know.
But my point is that we've got to get to a place where we honor God and we honor our community, and that is not a Democrat. That is not an R or a D. And I'm universally hated by radical shitbags on both sides of the aisle, and it's fine. I'm good with it, right? But the thing that I do is that I will run towards the things that I think are important, and my brothers and sisters, whether they're came from the ghetto of Aurora, Denver, or some of these other barrios that we do have in Colorado, or if they came from the wealthiest areas out there, we have to have parity between the people and the leadership. And right now we don't have that. So I'd like to see that happen. So Darcy, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
All right. God bless you. Talk soon.
You too.
All right. So Darcy didn't expect any of those questions, but she's done a lot of work. She's done a ton of work in the community that nobody ever looks at, nobody ever sees. Dave Williams does a ton of work, served in the Colorado legislature, got attacked for being pro-China. I mean, anything and everything that the left could put out there, the right carried in these rhino organizations. And so we've forgotten, President Trump's the one that stands up and talks about things. I didn't realize how synergistic some of the things that I would say, and even some of the words that like Elon would use. And he's much smarter than I am, obviously. He runs a $1 trillion company, but and I wasn't smart enough to stay out of politics before I made $1 trillion.